Hello, and welcome to the My Heart and Mind podcast, where it's all about creating the feel-good mindset so you can make the most of every moment and reap the benefits of getting the most happiness out of life. And now, over to your host, Sally Crawley.
My show is for you if you've had a heart attack, heart surgery, a cardiac arrest, or your life has been impacted by a cardiac diagnosis. It's all about mastering your thoughts and feelings and emotions so you can feel great and live a life that you love despite your diagnosis. Thank you so much for joining me today. Just before we get into the show though, please be aware that my work is not intended to replace conventional medicine. It is complementary. If you have any concerns about your health or your heart, then do seek medical expert advice immediately. Hey, hello my hearty family. If this is your first time, I'm really pleased to meet you. If you've come back after other episodes, I'm so grateful that you've done that. Today, I'm going to ask you a question to start. Have you ever felt like your world was turned upside down by your heart attack or heart surgery? If the answer is yes, it's not surprising because the emotional impact can be just as profound as the physical. Today we're talking about something many don't anticipate, and that's the emotional rollercoaster ride of the change curve of a cardiac event. I remember thinking everything would be fine after my heart attack, only to realise I was grieving for the life I'd lost. It's a form of grief many people don't recognise, but it's incredibly real. We'll explore the various stages you might go through, from shock and denial to frustration and ultimately integration and acceptance. If you've felt lost, angry or depressed since your cardiac event, know this: you're not alone. Join me as we navigate this often unexpected journey and discover how we can move forward together. Today I'm going to talk to you about the emotional roller coaster that I went through after my heart attack. I'm sure I'm not alone, and there's many of you that have felt like you've been going the same way. When I think back to how I felt when I first came out of the hospital after the heart attack, I don't think I really realised what was going on at the time, and I was going through the first stages of grief. I remember thinking at first that everything would be fine. A few days after leaving hospital, a couple of days in bed maybe, lots of sleeping. It couldn't be that bad. Part of me needed to grieve the fact that I had been let down by my body, in particular by my heart. I didn't realise it at the time, but again, it's one of those things that, as I think back, I suppose in a way it's a bit obvious because having a heart attack is serious. It's not just like breaking your leg or having a cut, etc. This is a life or death situation. So for me, I thought, as I said, I'm going to jump back up, get back on the horse and everything will be fine. But it didn't take very long, only a few days, for me to realise that my life had changed completely and that I was grieving that life. I didn't help, I suppose, that at the time I was in a plaster cast due to having ruptured my Achilles a month earlier doing martial arts. So moving around was very limited. I couldn't get up the stairs, obviously. I was going up on my knees, but I had to stop halfway. And all I had were my own thoughts. Was this normal? Should I feel like this? Why am I feeling so scared? I couldn't understand why I wasn't feeling like my old self. I couldn't even contemplate the thought of a future. As I said, it's a form of grief. Most people think of grief as something that you go through when you lose a loved one, but it's also a similar experience when you've lost a way of life. When you know how your body should be behaving, you know how your body should be feeling, and you know how you should normally be thinking, and then all of a sudden one day it changes. It changes so dramatically that you cannot continue to be the person that you once were. The process of going through those feelings is one and the same. Now, although there is no comparison, it is that today I'm going to be talking to you about the process of grieving. There is no specific order, there's no particular rule book. which states when, where, or how many times you may feel emotions of grief after a cardiac event or a diagnosis, or even after the loss of a loved one. Everyone is different, and I guarantee you're not alone in feeling like you've lost yourself. Change is a big thing for anyone to comprehend, let alone after a traumatic event. So today I want to share with you the change curve. This was a model that was written by a lady and her daughter, but the lady takes credit for it, Elisabeth Kubler-Ross. She called it 5 stages of grief. Feelings that people go through after losing a loved one, losing a part of their life they can never get back, or experiencing trauma. So what are the stages? The first is shock. A feeling where you cannot quite believe that this event is happening to you. Something I felt whilst being in the hospital following my heart attack. It was rather a surreal feeling. It didn't feel like I was particularly there. All through the cath lab experience and even while I was on the high dependency ward, I just felt like it couldn't be happening to me. Then there's denial. This is when you may feel that the doctors have the diagnosis wrong, or it may not be as bad as they're making out. I had these thoughts while I was in hospital again. I also found myself bargaining with myself that if I do this, do that, do the other, it will go away and it won't have been happening to me. Another of the stages is frustration. This can hit you really quite hard and fast as you realise the enormity of what has happened to you and that it has changed your life. And then there's getting angry and frustrated. Why did this have to happen to me? The frustration can be about all the things that you used to do that you feel that you can't do now. And it does feel that you very much want your old you back. But the reality is you can't be the old you because we are constantly changing. And this experience of a cardiac event, heart attack, cardiac arrest or heart surgery has changed our lives. Another stage is depression. Your mood may go very low as you lose motivation, not knowing what to do or who to speak to. A feeling of giving up, where you may truly grieve for a life before your cardiac event. I found myself crying every day, sometimes just for a short while in that day. Other days, it would be all day long, and I had no idea why I was crying and was so sad. Another stage that you move through is experimentation. Why not try and help yourself and make yourself feel better? Not wanting to feel depressed anymore? You may feel it's now time to start journaling or joining a support group. It'd be time that you're going to think about all of the other things that you can give it a go, see how it feels. You're feeling a bit optimistic. Then we move to the stage of decision. And this is where you can make decisions about your life going forward. Maybe it's stopping smoking, or maybe it's making sure that after you've done your rehabilitation, you exercise at least twice a week. And then we move on to integration. And this is where, with repetition and time, you feel like a new person. You'll be able to accept that you can never be the old you and that the new you has a life to be lived. You've changed your diet, your lifestyle, and are feeling positive, and maybe even at a stage where you want to help others who've been through similar experiences. Hopefully that's where I am today. Now, I know if you've been counting along, you're going to go, hang on a minute, Sally, that was 7 stages, not 5. Well, you're correct. I have taken the original model and adapted a few stages. I've added in a few of my own from my own experience, and I've grouped a few of them together. Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance were all in the Kubler-Ross original grief model. And you can see for yourself, particularly if you go to my website and read the blog, I have got an image there of all of the stages and where the original ones fall into my new one. Some of you may feel all of the feelings straight away. Some of you may feel them sometime after you've been discharged from hospital. Others of you may feel one, and then you will jump back and forth as they struggle to come to terms with what's happening. It is so not unusual, it is normal to actually go through these stages a bit like a roller coaster, rolling backwards and forwards on the track until you actually find peace. I wrote a book about a year after I'd had my heart attack, and in it I explain what I mean about this roller coaster ride. If you're interested, it's available on Amazon. All you need to do is search for my name, Sally Crawley, and the title of the book, which is The Beat Goes On. So, this is what I had to say. Everyone is different. Everyone is unique, so all of our experiences, thoughts, beliefs, feelings and responses are without doubt going to be different. The one thing we all have in common is that it is a journey and that there is no final destination. That's probably not what you wanted to hear, but it's the truth. Another truth is that it's not always in the same direction. There may be twists and turns, and you may need to reverse or even turn around sometimes. Recovery from the emotional impact of a cardiac event or a heart health diagnosis is a process. What I want you to hold on to is that you can enjoy the journey and remember that your life has always been about change. Change is the one constant in this life. The majority of people don't feel comfortable with change, and that may be an understatement. If you've recently had a cardiac event or you've been given a cardiac health diagnosis, the changes have almost been instantaneous and with very little warning. They're unexpected and they are life-threatening. I used changes rather than change, as it isn't just the interventions that cause a change in our lives, but our thoughts, our feelings and our beliefs, with the additional life changes to reduce our risk factors and improve our lifestyle choices. The loss of our old life, the old ways of being, and the realisation that we are not immortal or invincible. We do grieve, and we should grieve as we move on in our journey of recovery. What I want you to know, though, about recovery is the most important thing is to remember that you're not alone. All of any negative thoughts, feelings of anxiety and shock are valid. One of the best things you can do to start coming to terms with your grief is by talking to someone who has experienced it for themselves. Not only have they experienced the same feelings of loss, but in a very similar way to you. Not everyone goes through a heart attack, heart surgery or a cardiac arrest, so speaking to someone that has can really help you. If you feel you're at that stage, I host a support group on Facebook. It's called the My Heart and Mind Community. And if I'm really honest with you, because I was unable to go to cardio rehab and because I was unable to leave the house without somebody to help me on my way, I was isolated, and it was a Facebook support group that helped me way back in 2016 feel more part of a community and less like I was on my own, scared. And if you're not ready to join a group, but you want further help, please stay listening to my podcast, visit my website, and I am always available to help by email. That's Sally, SALLIE, at myheartandmind.co.uk. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you've enjoyed learning about the roller coaster ride. You can find the show notes and all links that I mentioned on my website, www.myheartandmind.co.uk/podcast. And if you enjoyed today's show, please give it 5 stars and leave a review. By leaving a review, it helps the algorithm to be able to send out my podcast to more people like you that could possibly gain some help and some positivity from it. Also, just share it with someone so that they can learn how they can live their life happy despite having a heart attack or heart surgery. And before I go, I just want to tell you that you are loved more than you will ever know. You're admired by more people than you'd ever expect. You are worthy of joy and happiness. Until next time, my hearties. Bye-bye.